but we've got there. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to Manifesting Success with Crystal Energy. And we have the lovely Nik Bisbey, friend and colleague of mine, who's got vast experience, extensive experience and knowledge about crystals. And I'd like to welcome her to our group this evening. And from what I've heard so far, we're in for a really big treat. So, Nik, over to you if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Sarah. I really hope you are in for a treat. I hope you're in, that I can give you some information that's going to benefit everybody today. So I'm Nik. I'm a solution-focused hypnotherapist. I am an NLP master practitioner. I'm an embraining coach, trauma therapist. So that's my description in the work that I do. But I also have spent over 20 years working with holistic therapies and training in various holistic and energy therapies. Primarily, I worked for 15 years for Crystals UK Limited, who is the leading retailer of crystals in the UK. So by the time I left, they'd grown from 5 shops when I started to 28 shops throughout the UK. So as you can imagine, it was a tremendous experience being with them in that journey of growth. And I left as a director when I had my second child. And then went on to do even more training. So there's an enormous amount in that. Obviously, I spent every day working with different people, recommending crystals, training other people in the use of them as well. And of course, it ignited an enormous passion, which hasn't left me since. And that was, oh goodness, 11 years ago that I left. And I still, every day, I'm talking, I'm thinking in crystals, I'm sharing my experiences. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow, that's quite a history on crystals then. As I say, I dabble in them, as I think a lot of people do. There's a lot of myths behind it, and I'm never not quite sure which ones to get. So it's lovely to speak with you. But I think you were going to talk about the energy behind them and explain what because everything is energy, isn't it? And we're energy. Yeah,
exactly. And one of the big problems that we have surrounding crystals, which is why I turned away from it slightly redirected and trained in, the hypnotherapy and other practices, so that I could really find some grounding with it. And I spent a lot of my time training in crystal healing as well as other energy therapies, trying to understand actually how or why does this work. Because I know it does work, and I've had a lot of shared experience as well with it, where I might feel the same feeling from something as somebody else. And so I knew there was something really powerful in it. And of course, the passion that people have for them, well, you can't miss that. So when we talk about how crystals actually work, if they do work, well, actually, we talk about the energy that they emit. Now, some people will poo-poo that suggestion and say they don't have an energy, they don't emit energy. What nonsense. But of course, we know that they do. And in order for something to be a solid object, it must emit an energy. Like, for example, I commented on your wonderful fish tank behind you there. Now, I wouldn't actually be able to see that if it weren't producing an energy. So that fish tank there, I can see the top is black, the leaves in there are green. I can see all of those things because it's emitting an energy that's then hitting my retina, and I interpret that energy. Okay, so we see that all in frequency. So the same is with your crystals. So they emit an energy, and it's of a particular frequency, obviously, for each and every different one. And that energy is based on the structure of the crystal itself. Now, it might help at this point, because I have a risk of going down some very deep rabbit holes when I start talking about this, because we're getting into some nanophysics. Okay, so that big deep holes there. But just to give it a simple term now, if I just go on to share my screen, I've got an image here which I can show you of these. So these are called platonic solids. I don't know if you've come across these before.
No, I haven't.
Each of these represents the structure that an atom might form when different parts of different chemicals come together, and so they create these shapes, one of these shapes, and then they multiply and multiply and multiply, and so that's why you end up with crystals of very particular shapes and forms, and depending on how they've grown, how the crystals have grown, what kind of environment they've been in, whether it's heat or pressure, or if they've had lots of space, they'll form slightly differently. And so I'll come off the share again. And so that shows us that right down to the atomic structure of the crystal, and the atom produces the energy that we see that creates a solid form. And then they keep repeating these shapes or patterns based on what chemicals are within that crystal.
Right.
Okay, are you with me?
I'm still with you, yes.
Okay. And like I said, you know, this is getting into particle physics when we start talking about the, you know, the atomic structure of things, and how we receive that energy, of course, is based on the fact that we can interpret these things. An example of that is when you walk into a room and you get a funny feeling, you know, and you think, oh, something's not right. What is it? But you don't know what that is until you start kind of looking around and going, something's amiss. Or you just get an uncomfortable feeling and you leave it. You're picking up on energy, and everybody gets that feeling from time to time, that feeling you're being watched.
I was just about to say that you could always feel if somebody's watching you from behind, can't you?
Isn't that extraordinary
that you're picking up on?
Exactly. And so yes, I spent a lot of time researching, well, how does this happen? Another side note is I've spent most of my life experiencing what one might call psychic phenomena. So I really wanted an explanation for that, because I'm a very grounded person. My background, you know, at school was all about science. Absolutely adore science. So I really wanted an explanation for this. And so I looked into all of these things. And this isn't just my conclusion. Now you can look in books, you can look online, you'll find this information is everywhere. It's readily available, and lots of people are talking about the physics of energy now. It's wonderful. It's getting out there, you know, and it's not this kind of cosmic woo-woo anymore. It's a real thing. People
are becoming a bit more open-minded about woo-woo.
Yeah, and you get, you know, a lot more scientists as well are coming on board with it. So it's really, really fantastic that we're able to, you know, we know that we like these things, we know we enjoy having them in our environment. So now people are saying, and here's why, and here's what might help with it, and how they might affect you. So when we get something in our environment, it can just slightly shift your shift the energy within your environment by what it emits. So that's in a nutshell of the energy and why and how they work. Is that making sense?
Yes, I glazed over yet. I find it can be difficult explaining energy to people, because I do about thought energy. Mm-hmm. You know, and our bodies are all energy, all vibrating different frequencies. Yeah. So it's
the same.
Sometimes a difficult one to grasp initially. Yeah.
And it is the same with your thoughts. It's the same with your thoughts, because as you know, I've studied neurology as well for my work as a hypnotherapist. And in the neuroscience, we can see actually the energy that is produced by a thought. You know, thought is energy, and to assume that that's kept in is quite misguided, isn't it, really? If we kept the energy in of all of our thoughts, we would be exploding, wouldn't we, with all it. I know it feels like that sometimes, doesn't it, when you've got so much going around your head. But you know, it's got to go somewhere. You're producing energy all the time at different frequencies.
I think is it the Kirlian camera?
No, Kirlian photography.
You can see the energy releasing from you, can't it?
Well, here's the thing. It's pseudoscience, unfortunately. Yeah. It's a lovely thing, and I had Kirlian photography done over 20 years ago, photos of my aura, and it showed certain things that was really very fascinating. And I think it can be quite useful in noticing things and in focusing your energy on something. But the truth is that Kirlian photography works by photographing the responses of light to moisture on your body. So, you know, there may be something you can read into that, but it's not necessarily photographing energy or an aura, because when you remove moisture from the situation, the energy isn't there.
I know, that's interesting.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you.
You see, I can't leave any of these things alone. How and why? So as much as I don't like to dispel all the myths, because there is magic in the world, and it's, you know, with the crystals, why are they there? How do they form? It's extraordinary. They are truly magical. They're truly beautiful things. And if there isn't magic in that, then, you know, that's a worrying thought, isn't it, really? There's something so wonderful about them. So how we then know what we're drawn to, how we know what kind of crystals might be right for us, is quite a huge subject, because of course there are hundreds, thousands of different crystals, and you go into a crystal shop and you think, where do I start? And it can be quite overwhelming, and of course it's mind-boggling as well, the amount of information that is out there, and you know, how do you filter through it? How do you know what to believe and what not to? So the number of books, and they're all written in slightly different ways, different opinions on things. So I really like, I'm looking at what you're wearing, and that pink is beautiful on you. And we are drawn to certain colors, aren't we? And so I like to start with talking about colors and how colors relate to your crystals. And I know that a lot of your clients and the people in your coaching group are quite spiritually aware. They're quite aware of energy and things. So I hope that if I dive into talking about the chakras, that I don't have to go too deep down that rabbit hole for them to understand where I'm going with that. So what I'd like to do now, Sarah, with you, is I'm just going to bring up one image after another, and I'd like you to look at it and tell me on the first image, okay, this one, which color did your eyes go to first? Don't edit, don't judge, just which color is standing out to you.
You see, I would normally say it'd be pink that draws me, but no, it's the yellow.
Yellow, okay. And there's a particular one, isn't there, that your eyes go to? Okay. Now,
center at the left, yeah.
Lovely. That's good, isn't it? So this fabulous umbrella, isn't it? I'm going to have to get me one of those. So I'm going to flip the image now. And again, I want you to really try hard not to judge your choice, because you did that just now. Like you said, normally I'd be pink. And that's when we're letting our conscious mind sort of interfere a little bit. But you told me exactly what your instinct said. So now, which color stands out the most?
Now this time the pink has.
Okay. And with the difference in the images, if I go back to this first one, it looks so much more faint now, doesn't it? and then this one, how does this one make you feel in comparison to the first one?
I'm
going to flip them again. Okay, have a good look.
It's a stronger colours. It's more vibrant, a bit more alive, more.
Yeah. And I found exactly the same actually when I was choosing them, that I was like, my goodness, it really does have a huge impact. When we look at those bright colours, we're immediately a bit more energized, a bit more lifted. But it's also really interesting to know that when we have the softer, fainter colours, that the yellow drew you, it's a nice, soft, soothing yellow. It's really nice. It's comforting. It's got a warm glow to it. And yet with the brighter colours, it was the pink that was like, yes. And you want to grab it and you want to kind of dive into it, don't you, really, with those bright colours? So you can see when we talk about the crystals that the colour has got a lot to do with it. You are seeing the light frequencies from the color, but you're also feeling the light frequencies from the color. So you're picking up on the energy from it, you're picking up on that color. And it's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect how you feel just by the color. And of course, we can talk about the chakras, which chakras that might be affecting. So your choice, of course, that lovely soft yellow solar plexus. Now, if it'd been a bright yellow, a powerful yellow, that would be kind of energizing. It would be stimulating, kind of really wake you up, like biting on a grapefruit. Okay.
Yes.
But because it was a softer yellow, we're talking more lemon meringue pie. It's got a kind of perhaps a little bit of sharpness, a little bit of be alert, and yet calm. Okay. So that's really nice. And the pink, on the other hand, it's a heart chakra, of course, the pink. But when you've got a really nice vibrant pink like that, it's bringing up a little bit more of that kind of gutsy energy as well in it. So again, it's stimulating, it's passionate, it's got so much energy. It's a real commitment stone. You know, you're committed to your cause. You're kind of probably quite stubbornly pursue things. So it's, you know, it's a lot of heart energy. It's almost like it's pushing from the back of the heart chakra. You know, it's like propelling you forward with all of that kind of compassion and strength in the heart space. So it tells us a lot. So you can see, and as I say, you know, we could go on about which crystals, which chakras, but I think that, as I say, your group will be able to make those assumptions themselves as to what goes where and how it makes you feel. When the crystals form and they take on their colors, that is also to do with the chemicals within them, the heat pressure that they are under. And so obviously it has a lot to do with then the way the atoms produce the energy as well. So it's not just how you're seeing it, it's how it's formed and the energy therefore that it emits. So how is that so far?
There's a lot more to them than I thought.
There's a different insight, and this is where I really want to, you know, to talk to people about crystals, because it's when we take away a little bit of the fluff, we can be a bit more practical about it, a little bit more like, actually, I'll bring that into my environment because there is actually something going on. It's not just if you believe in it, it works, although that does help. It is a case of they are actually doing something. And like you've got your crystal on your desk next to you there. I've got mine. I don't think I've got a room in the house without an amethyst in it. So absolutely, yeah. So in fact, that leads me nicely on. In fact, before we move on from chakras, we talk about obviously the different colors of the chakras where things are associated to. And there also, in addition to that, there are, of course, the black stones. And a lot of people would associate black with earth, with grounding, and with protection. And so that's where we see the black stones. And white and clear tends to be above the head. And so we have chakras beyond our physical body. We've got your earth star chakras, that anchors you into the earth, connects you to earth. You've got your soul star and external chakras connecting to higher selves, higher realms, and so on. Whatever you believe within that, that's where your white and clear exist beyond the self. So that's a really great thing to know. But also that we put black within our environment. A lot of people believe it to be very protective. Put it in your window, if you're feeling bad vibes from next door, things like that. It's a really nice thing to do, and so much of it is about intention. But they're not all just about earthiness and all about protection. They can actually feel really light and bright as well. I think people that use crystals quite a lot see black as being quite heavy, but two of the most common ones for protection, and this is important if you're dealing with a lot of people in your group who are very aware. Black tourmaline is the most recommended stone for protection because it's black. You got one there?
I've got a few of these, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
That one, or is it this one?
Polished one? Yeah. It tends to be, it's long. Yeah, it's difficult to tell. That one's quite shiny. It's probably more likely obsidian, that one. So black tourmaline is often sold in its columnar structure. It's not polished as often. If it's polished, it tends to have kind of mottled surface because it grows in long kind of pin-like columns, and sometimes chunky, stubby little bits.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just bought several of these.
Had a bit right here.
Each corner of my house, and my electrical stuff.
There we go.
I was told it's protection, so, and it
excellent.
Helps with the EMF from your
electromagnetics. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really great one to have around, and it can earth excess energy. So that's really nice for that. Really nice for grounding, but also because it has this wonderful columnar structure, it helps to bring light through. It helps to bring things into alignment as well. So it can really help with clarity. Yeah, so it can really bring your chakras into alignment. So it's a nice one to wear or to carry if you're feeling a little bit heady or a little bit out of sorts. You can watch it back, Sarah. We're recording. So yeah, well, if you're feeling a bit discombobulated, black tourmaline is a real friend to have. So it's not just about protection, it's not just about negativity in your environment. Actually, it can be a real joy to have around, because if we come into alignment, if we help ourselves bring our chakras back into alignment, remove the things that are creating confusion in your world and anchor you down, well, then you are a better conduit for all that light and inspiration. So you see, by anchoring, by grounding and having these darker color crystals in your environment, you're actually a lot more open to higher vibration, higher frequencies. And actually this is something I see a lot with very spiritual people, tend to be, and I'm generalizing, tend to spend a lot of time up in their higher chakras, and are quite ungrounded often. So just by earthing and by grounding can really help to bring in more of that spirituality and actually turn it into something you can use and communicate about, without it just being all kind of up there and mystical, you know. So lovely. So that's black tourmaline. The other one, obsidian, which I think you've got there, it's a volcanic glass. So it's actually a super cooled volcanic glass. It's a beautiful thing. I adore it. You can probably see my big obelisk. Can you see that at the back here?
Yes, yeah.
I have got, so there he is.
Just mind to show you.
I have got several black obsidian spheres as well. They used to be used for scrying. Used to make black mirrors out of them, using for scrying. So there's so much mystery and mystical history surrounding obsidian. Of course, it was found in tombs of the Egyptians, used extensively by the Mayans and the Aztecs. They loved the stuff. So obsidian, again, another black stone. I think it's quite misleading to call it grounding because I find it illuminating. So it does depend on how you're feeling and what you've got going on in your world, but I find it enormously illuminating. It has got so much light in it, and it reflects a lot of light as well. So it's a beautiful thing, but wonderfully protective too. Okay. Good. Are we going in the right direction, Sarah?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what I wanted to go on to was about using them in your environment. And you see I've got my few larger pieces. I don't know if you can see those very well. I've got a few larger pieces behind me there. As I mentioned, I have amethyst in every room. And if you know anything about feng shui, as you mentioned about having tourmaline in the corners of your home, amethyst is a wonderful one just to have in your environment because it helps to transmute energy in your space into more positive energy. So it kind of circulates your energy really well. It's a nice one for spirituality as well, when it's generally quite well known for being relaxing, not in the same sort of soft fluffy way as perhaps a rose quartz is, which is very kind of calming and soothing, like gentle music. Amethyst is much more about take it easy, take a step back, you know, just take your time. I relate it to being quite similar to lavender oil in its energy, whereas your rose quartz might be more of a chamomile. I don't know if you're into your oils, but yeah. So I like to have them in the room, and I've got a rose quartz there, an obsidian, and I brought these over to here actually because I realized I always have these in my therapy room. These particular crystals, I have moved them around so many times, they always come to my therapy room. I have got a big chunk of rose quartz. Okay. Now this chunk of rose quartz, you see it's quite dark. It's not the usual kind of candy floss. It's got this kind of very dark center in it. So it's a sort of lavender, it's a gemmy rose quartz, which, as I say, calming and soothing. It's really gentle. I have got this beastie. So this is a clear quartz obelisk. I'm a big fan of the obelisk shape. And that's for clarity. It also helps to direct energy because I deal with a lot of people who are having difficult times. And if you have oh, that's a lovely one. That's beautiful. I really like the tapered shape. Do you know that the original magic wands were made out of tapered quartz crystals like that?
Were they?
So the tapered shape helps to, another tapered one. Your secret witch, Sarah. So the tapered really. So the tapered ones help to, if you're using them in crystal healing and things, really help to get your fine sort of almost laser-like accuracy if you're using them in healing things. So they're really nice for that. But points are great for directing energy. And I tend to have them in the therapy room as I have them on the windowsill, the quartz, directing light in, or otherwise I might turn them around if I want to send energy out. So it's quite important to look at which direction they might be pointing. Another one that travels with me to my different therapies is the selenite. And
that's beautiful.
Now you've seen these made into candle holders and things like that, but you can see as the light moves down it's made out of fine needles. It's called a feldspar, it's a variety of feldspar, and this is where they got the idea actually for fiber optics from, because it actually transmits light all the way, sort of zigzags up these little needles and comes out the top. So they're used for light boxes and things like that as well. And yes, exactly that. That's what I have them in the room for bringing light through. So it's a really great conduit for spiritual communication, and just for me, it's a really nice way to kind of feel connected and present, you know, so it's not too heady either. I suppose with all the other crystals I've got around me, it probably balances out with grounding as well. And I've got a couple of weird little things here in my hand, which I have on my desk at all times, and these are called bogie stones. And I won't go into what these are about, but they grow in pairs, and there's a male and a female, and they're iron based, and they're all about balancing. They're magnetic as well. They don't kind of knock together, but they have magnetic polarities, positive and negative, so really helpful for balancing you out. So again, sometimes if you know somebody's dealing with some messy energy, I use these to help to sort of anchor it out and bring some balance in and help.
I've never heard of those.
They're quite unusual. I've got others on my desk, but we'll stop with that for now. So placing them, I mentioned feng shui. You've got some on your desk. I've got some on my desk, on my window. Where do you put them? How do you know where to put them? And there's so many rules about where you should put them. Forget the rules, put them where you like. Okay, because where you like them to be is where they really ought to be. If something's in the wrong place, like your plant behind you, for example, if you kept looking at that thinking, oh, I really want to move that, oh, it's not right. Do you know what I mean? You know, when you hang a picture and you think, oh, I wish I'd put that, you know, a couple of meters that way or on that other wall, and you can't quite settle with it until you move it. It's because the energy is wrong. Okay? It's not because of the rules on where you should put these things. It's because your energy is just not right in there. And when you move it, you think, oh, that's better. I can relax now. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that, how many times you've moved the sofa until you got it right. It's so much about the flow, about the energy. And it's the same with your crystals. And it's okay to keep moving them.
Ah, okay.
No rules, except, you know, like your black tourmaline, have it near your screen, things like that. That's nice. It's nice. But a lot of that is to do with your intention as well. Like I'm deciding, you know, I'm going to direct some energy out the window, or I'm deciding I'm going to ground myself now when I pick up these crystals. What happens, of course, is in our neurology, we're making a decision to anchor down. So when I pick up my little bogie stones here and I, you know, subconsciously now, of course, I don't even think about it, pick them up, balance out, ground it a little bit. And I'm sending signals to my brain just by handling them that that's what I want to do. And my brain in turn releases the right chemicals, the right hormones to give me that sensation of calming, relaxing, feeling in control, balance, whatever it is that you're, you know, like you're associating with your lapis sphere, for example. You've got the energy, we've already talked about that a little bit, but you've also got the power of your intention behind that too.
Yes, I say this one, it's
so beautiful. I'm actually very jealous.
Just have it in my hand when I'm thinking.
Yes.
This feels lovely.
And I adore lapis, and you know the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians adored lapis too. It's beautiful. I am so jealous. That is a gorgeous piece. Lapis is, you know, helps you to think. It's third eye, very much third eye. That wonderful rich indigo color. So it's all about your intellect as well. It's not about necessarily opening to clairvoyance, as a lot of people associate with third eye. It really is very much about the intellect. But it also contains pyrite and pyrite is fool's gold. It's an iron-based mineral, so it's very grounding, but it's also solar plexus. It's that lovely goldy color, inspirational. Lapis also contains calcite. That's a nice kind of balancing one, and lazulite, which is also sodai. So it's got a lot. There's a lot of oomph behind a piece like that. There really is. Very powerful.
Should continue to use it as my thinking stone then.
Yeah, exactly the right kind of thing for that. So we came on to talk about how you use crystals for success. And, you know, we've covered quite a lot about how you choose them, how you have them in your environment and things like that. But how do you know which ones to choose if you want to intentionally change your state or change situations in your life? So some of the things we've talked about, for example, being more grounded so that you can, you know, be more open to inspiration, for example. Using a blue stone to focus your intellect, to come up with new ideas. So you can associate with the chakras, certainly. If you think, actually, I need more inspiration, I need more confidence, you might go for an orange stone, because that's very much for the navel and the base chakra, so red there. So it can be very much about what you're drawn to as well. Because what we think about as success is different for everybody, isn't it? So for me, when I think about success, I have images of relaxing in a meadow somewhere. And that for me would be success. Because, you know, if you can lie down in a meadow and just look at the sky and watch the butterflies, then surely there's not too much else going on in your world for you to worry about. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? And that for me is the meaning of success, is actually being able to be tranquil, self-assured, you know, or have all those things going on. What about you?
Success for me is a bit like you. I like serenity, that lovely feeling of being on an even keel. Mm-hmm. Always, you still have your ups and downs, but it's something I won't say mastered, but something came to me a couple of years ago and it turned my life around. And I like to share that with other people, the art of doing that. And that brings me success, because I'm just very calm about things.
It's a tremendous thing, isn't it? And I can almost hear people watching this now going, what are you talking about? Success means I'm going to have that car I want. You know, it's about having more money. It's about being able to afford to pay for things with my family. And
it's how you are and who you are that gets you that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it might well be.
Not the actual, I always say that because Master Success Community, I say step by step. Not just the goal, it's the person you become each step.
Yeah. And that's absolutely,
in a way, it's about who you are.
Yeah. And that's absolutely where I, you know, put this, if I'm talking about choosing the right crystals for a particular thing, particularly something as broad as success, is actually, well, what's stopping you? And I'm sure it's something that you ask your team quite a lot. You know, what is it that's in the way? What is it that's interrupting that flow? And it's by pushing through those interruptions that we begin to then open ourselves up to opportunities and to success in whatever form that is. And when you decide and you use your intention and you say, actually, what I want is, and you create a clear vision of success, or you create a vision of what that might be, then your crystals can be your guide. You know, if you go into a crystal shop, something stands out to you. What's that doing? Why is that standing out to you? Now, what you'll do is you'll go and pick that up and you say, what is this? What does it do? Because I am so drawn to it. Oh, and you walk away from the shop and you think, damn it, I should have bought that thing. And you can't stop thinking about it. It's got in there somewhere. What's happened is that the energy that crystal is putting out is hitting you somewhere that says, yes, that's hitting the spot. That's what you asked for. That's what you need. That's going to help you to get there. So it's almost like it's unlocking. It's the right key to unlock that next stage. And
so
it's not.
Sorry, is it a little bit like, you know, when you say where you're craving a food, it's because your body needs it. So if you're drawn to a crystal, it's the same thing, it's your body's needing it.
Yeah, I love this subject. I've been talking about this quite a lot recently because people are talking about intuitive eating, aren't they? Quite a lot. But what if you intuitively really want cake? That's my question. So yes, your intuition. Now, what is intuition? Is your anterior cingulate cortex, in fact, sending a signal to your body that says, that's it, that feels good, it feels right. And your anterior cingulate cortex is the part of your brain that's like your PA. So it's, if you decide consciously, Sarah, that you want to go and lie in a meadow and watch butterflies because that sounds really nice, your anterior cingulate cortex will help you to ensure that that happens. So next time there's a sunny day and you've got an hour's spare, it'll prompt you, it'll send you a lovely image of that field just up the road that's just right at this time of year. And you'll think, oh, that'll be nice. And off you pop. So it's the same when you go into a crystal shop and you're thinking, you know, or you're feeling a bit drab, you're feeling a bit low, a bit stuck. And you're thinking to yourself as you head that way, oh, I really want something to help me to get out of this stuck place. You walk in and bam, something lights up your life and you think that's the one. It's hit that spot. Your anterior cingulate cortex has said, yes, that's got the right kind of vibe. You know, so it's hitting you somewhere, shifting your chemistry in your body. Your brain will pick up on that, and whatever it tells you, I like the color, isn't that a fascinating shape? Whatever the reason you're drawn to, whatever intellectual reason you give it, it's caught your attention, you've picked it up, it's done its thing. So when we say that they choose you, they're going, hi. It's something that I used to do in the shop. Is somebody would walk in and I'd look around and I would see the one, because people often come in and they, you know, maybe blinkered, they're busy, lots of things going on, and it would leap out. So I'd see changes around a place. So yeah, it was so much fun. You know, I'd let people look for a bit, and if they ask for help, I know exactly which one is right for them, and then we could talk about why and what it does, and always spot on. It's a wonderful thing, but that comes from obviously being very in tune with them and spending so many years around them. In fact, it did come very quickly. I obviously found myself in the right place when I was working with them, but it was such a joy to be able to recommend them to people and to you know, join them together, I suppose, in a way. So what it starts to do then is it starts to unlock things in us. So if we say, you know, if you brought an obsidian into your environment, well, that's quite a hard teacher. What obsidian does is it shows you where you're going wrong, which is, it's a bit heavy. You know, you've got it among some other beautiful gentle crystals there, so it kind of balances out a bit. But if you ask it to, it will show you where you're going wrong. So not only do we have to have intention when we choose our crystals or when we decide to go on that path, but we also have to listen, and we have to look out for shifts, opportunities, and so on. We have to be engaged with that process. And does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So one of the super manifestor crystals is citrine, of course, and it's all about abundance. It's all about money and abundance, okay? So if we brought citrine into our environment, would we immediately then expect to go and win the lottery? Well, no, we wouldn't, obviously. But the citrine is a stone of instinct. It's a stone of intuition. It's right there in your solar plexus, and it's going to keep giving you signals to say, that's the right thing to do, that's the right place to go, that's the right person to talk to. But if you're not listening to your intuition, it's not going to get through. So we have to respond to the signals. If we're going to work with crystals and accelerate the process, we have to respond to that. It will keep chipping away. If you're carrying it, your intention is there, but sometimes it just takes a while for the signal to get through. If we've got a lot of blocks, you know, if we've got a lot of resistance, it might take a little while.
She says having a look.
See what else you've got in there.
I've got all sorts. I have got a couple of little bits of citrine. Just a couple of little bits.
Wonderful.
I've got all sorts.
So Sarah, is, you know, you've brought those into your environment knowing that they bring you pleasure and knowing that they might just have an effect on something. Oh, that's beautiful. Now that could be, it's quite difficult to see the colour precisely here. It could be an aqua beryl, I think, or a calcite. It was a blue calcite. Beautiful, really soft, gentle throat chakra. Calcite is quite reassuring. It's got a lovely reassuring energy, but it helps if you're getting a sort of stuck throat sometimes, or you're not being able to express things where you want to. That one will help.
Oh,
yeah,
so
lovely.
I'm doing a presentation and I feel a bit stuck. I need to put that one out.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got that lovely cloudy, fluffy cloudy colour as well, hasn't it? So very calming, sort of baby blue. Yeah,
that's true actually.
Yeah, good for daydreaming too. So
that one's responsible.
So when we say, you know, combining the crystals with your intention, so that it won't just work necessarily on their own, and that's quite important. So that's quite an important thing to remember, to work with them, to be open and to be receptive to, you know, as I say, if you want to accelerate things, or you could just have it, you know, like a nice amethyst in your room, and it helps to create a more harmonious environment, and things will just nicely tick along. So it's great having around. You don't have to go, you know, all in, as it were. But it's the same with wearing them. So today, what am I wearing? I've got labradorite on, and labradorite's nice and balancing as well. It's a wonderfully protective stone, but I don't know if you can see, labradorite has a sort of iridescence to it. So it's actually called labradorescence, and it almost gives you like a chameleon-like quality. And I use it for protection because it pick up a lot of stuff from my environment. I have a lot of stuff coming in, so if I'm feeling a little bit on low ebb, or I'm getting too much coming through, I put that on. It just sort of shushes the environment a little bit. Right. I probably could have put that better, but I think you get the gist. And I've got a quartz crystal. So I have put some pictures on here for you to have a quick look at, and maybe, you know, I'll just run through them very quickly as to what they are, and they're going to be, these are like the main crystals that you might come across, and I'll just quickly summarize what they will do. So you can see the first one here is the wonderful lapis, which we have already mentioned. It is so divine. It's a beautiful, beautiful crystal. So I put that one in there because I adore it, and also so do you. And there's labradorite, which I was just talking about. Brilliant for, actually. Yeah, so when we're talking about success, well, if you bring labradorite into it, it almost puts some steam up it a little bit. It gives it a little bit more determination, a little bit more drive, as well as protecting you a little bit from tripping up. We don't want, if we're going to go full pelt into a new experience, what we'd like is actually some balance. So labradorite brings in sun and moon energy. It's yin and yang. And then over here, we've got citrine, which again, we've already mentioned, your super manifester. It's also self-cleansing. So it helps to transmute energy in your environment, keeping your energy clear. So if you're going through a difficult time, it's great to have a citrine around because it will help to change the energy there. Oh, sorry, can you see that?
No, I think
I didn't bring the picture up. Okay, let me try again. There you go.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, okay, so the lapis, labradorite, and the citrine. Now, the reason why I've got 3 images of citrine here is because obviously you can see it comes in very different looking varieties, and you had some tumbled pieces there as well, which are nice, really nice to hold. This one here, this little cluster that looks a little bit like bubbly cheese on toast, is actually heat treated. And a lot of citrine that you get is, and you know, not necessarily good or bad thing, but just it's nice to be aware of it. These 2 are natural color, so it's much fainter in that variety. Citrine is actually a form of amethyst, so when it forms naturally underground, it's gone through this kind of heat transformation, and that is something that we can remember when we're using it. It is about transformation. It's about changing things. So, of course, rose quartz we've already mentioned, calming, soothing. It is heart chakra, and it's all about softening at the heart. It's all about loving yourself, caring for yourself, compassion for the self. If you want success, my goodness, isn't that the first thing you need to address? Absolutely.
The starting point.
Absolutely, you nailed that. The rest is easy. And that's so yeah, rose quartz can really help in those issues of, and also if you've had trauma, rose quartz is a nice one to give you the comfort to help to move things along. Amethyst, I love this quirky geode there. It's just slightly leaning.
Yes.
A jaunty angle. Amethyst, again, we've already mentioned, great to have in your environment, to where it tends to be a little bit heady for me. So if you wanted to accelerate your spiritual awareness, that's a great one. Opens the crown chakra. This one here is aventurine. Now this is a bit of a curveball. Intuitively wanted to bring that one in. Heart chakra as well, but aventurine is really about growth, and it's about embracing your opportunities. So I think I will park that, because we know what that might mean when it comes to success, growth, new opportunities. It's a green, feeds the heart chakra, okay, strengthens and feeds it, whereas pink softens and soothes. And then here, these are a couple of quite unusual ones, just for fun. This one here, this clear, slightly smoky colored one, is called a Herkimer diamond. And I've got one here. I've just bring it out. This is one of my absolute most favorite ones ever. And there it is. So the Herkimer diamond is not actually a diamond, it's a form of quartz, but it is formed so perfectly. It has this wonderful, almost diamond-like clarity to it, and it glows, it emanates so much light, and it's like a super crystal. It's turbocharged, it brings in so much light. And the one I've got, and I think that one there as well in the image, is a slightly smoky one, so it's slightly grounding as well. But it's all about the light. It's all about things being amazing and awesome and exciting. So it's a real stimulator, that one. And this one here, again, two images because they're very different in their appearance. This one here, it looks a bit like those lozenges you used to get, I think those cough lozenges. It's golden topaz. It's quite a rare one, but in thinking about success, I don't think there's another crystal that really epitomizes it as much as that. This is like standing on the podium with your gold, your gold medal. This is like, if this is what you want, then golden topaz is the way to go. It's all the riches, it's all the wonderfulness, it's all the excitement, it's all the joy. There's so much light in it as well. It's incredibly motivating. However, if you want all of those things, do expect it to come with some lessons.
Oh.
It's a super fast one, nice to use with other crystals, but it's quite unusual for somebody to have something like that and to wear something like that without necessarily having experienced other things or having the right network in place to really embrace that energy. That there is one for you to look up. I feel like that's for you right now.
Really?
Isn't that wonderful? So exciting. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It really is quite rare. Not extremely rare, but it's difficult to get hold of nice pieces. Do have a look out. I can recommend some places to find them later on. Okay, so come off there again. Is there anything else? We haven't talked about cleansing and clearing them. Do we have time? How long? I've gone on an awful lot.
Oh, that's okay. We've still got people watching. You haven't bored them yet. Let me see who's on. There's my sister Judith and Lynn, and somebody else I can't see.
Okay.
So Helen, Judith and Lynn, and somebody else that's not showing up. Here. So I'm sure they'll be happy to hear about cleansing them, because I saw something the other day, and they were saying specifically certain crystals you shouldn't wash them with water and things like that, and that had never occurred to me. Not to I put mine when it's a full moon.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and to just really simplify it, because there are some people, I watched something the other day where somebody said cleanse them in salt water, and again put them out to the moon, and I just went, oh. Because this person's got hundreds of thousands of followers as well. If I put this beauty in salt water, it would dissolve.
Oh wow.
if I put, there are so many crystals where their hardness is not enough to withstand salt water. There are some which are not hard enough to withstand water. So no, you don't always want to put them in water. Most crystals are fine. So your amethyst, but even the geode, I won't immerse that in water because it can get in between the crystals and it can separate them out. I've seen whole geodes crumble where people have soaked them to cleanse them, and it's unfortunate. So it's nice to run them underwater. Spring water is ideal, of course, but your visualization really helps as well. So if I'm holding, so I've got this little quartz tumble stone here, and I might put that under some running water, and I imagine the water's like silver and it's running through the crystal. So your intention, your visualization can really help with that. And charging them with the moon, lots of people love to charge them with full moon. Isn't that wonderful? It's a gorgeous thing, and I have no doubt it does wonderful things to your crystals. And I frequently will put a collection on my windowsill to bathe in the moonlight, but I don't do it very often. But then I'm not working with a lot of heavy energy here. There are certain ones I will cleanse after, if I've dealt with a trauma session, for example, with somebody, I will go and cleanse them. But some, like I'm thinking about the labradorite, which I showed you the image of earlier, that would really like to be charged in the sun. So there are sun crystals and there are moon crystals. But again, I don't think it really matters enormously. What it comes down to is your intention and how you're using them. So we can really get caught up in it a little bit too much. I, for one, would avoid salt water altogether. It is often recommended, have a bath, for goodness sake, put some Epsom salts in there, cleanse your crystals don't need that. I use sage a lot as well. We use sage to cleanse the environment. So you can just have the smoke and just hold it under your crystal. And again, you might imagine, it being cleansed and any unwanted energy removed, floating away with the smoke. So that's it's a completely harmless thing to do. That's not going to do any harm, having the sage around it. But sage is a wonderfully powerful cleanser, and the crystals get it. They work well with oils and with herbs, and we know that they're really harmonious. So if you introduce sage to a crystal, they kind of know what's going on, and you'll sense a difference as you become more sensitive to them. You begin to sense, like, I might keep going to a particular crystal, something's not right. I'll go and cleanse it, or move it to somewhere where it might get some light as well. So again, it's really instinctive. But I would encourage you, Sarah, to take out your crystals, put them in front of you and see what they tell you. Is there one that wants to move? Is there one that wants to go on the windowsill? Is there one that wants to go under a tap and have a, I know we've got chemically tap water, but it still helps. It's still going to do something. So just take them out and have a look at them and see what draws your attention. Sit with it for a moment. See how you feel. If there's anything in your body, you can meditate with them, of course, as well. You can ask questions of them during your meditation, ask them to help you with something or other. And place them on your body. If you feel like you've got lots of energy in your solar plexus, or you're feeling a little unwell somewhere, just go with what catches your eye. Put it where you want to put it. If you think, I want to put it on my shoulder, don't question it. You may well have something building up in that area. So we can just go with it and enjoy that flow and enjoy having them in our environment. Go with what your instinct tells you. But when you've got a lot together in a little dish like you have, it's just nice once in a while, get them out and have a look, rearrange them, put them somewhere else. Maybe your plants like them as well. They really help to keep your plants healthy. If you pop a little crystal on the soil, they quite like that too. So it can help your plants to grow.
One thing I was going to ask you is, because I have got some groups of them, do they, it's going to sound silly, do they all go well together, or are there certain ones that work against each other, say? Not so much.
Again, this is something, this is something that I used to come across quite a lot. And there will be certain schools of thought that will tell you that they might conflict with each other, but yet they get on perfectly well when they're underground, don't they? So I've never, experienced that myself. The only time that I have had a feeling of, in fact, I used to get intense headaches. Sometimes you put something near something else and it'd be like, I get incredible headaches, and that crystal would need a cleanse. And so something else might have just been saying, oh no, I don't like that. Or it could have been that somebody, if I was to pick up a crystal, put it next to another one, that particular combination for me might be triggering something, might make me feel uncomfortable, or it might be shifting something faster than I can really handle it. So again, you're hearing me using all these words about see how it feels, notice. It's very, very instinctive, because we can't see necessarily those energies.
No.
We can't see what's going on with our 5 major senses, but we have got a sense of feel. As we talked about, you feel somebody watching you, or you walk into a room, something's not right. We have the ability to feel what these crystals are giving out and what they do, and it's just a case of trusting yourself and going with that. We will question it naturally, because you and I, Sarah, brought up in an environment where none of this was real. We didn't have these kind of conversations. No. And yet here we are. We have the science that tells us that this is really happening now. We are having this conversation, and they are having an impact in your world. So instinctively, somebody might tell you, don't ever put malachite with obsidian. I tell you what, that's a full-on combination. Can make people feel quite nauseous, because malachite stirs up old emotions. It really gets in there deep and pulls them out. And obsidian, as I mentioned earlier, is going to make you face them. So it's going to be hard. That's going to be a horrible combination for a lot of people. I'd go on and bring in a rose quartz, just chill the whole lot out a bit, bring in some clarity, or maybe just do one at a time. But it's entirely instinctive. I think to suggest that they don't go together is not. It depends who you are and what you're doing.
With you, your energy, rather than the actual crystals together.
Absolutely.
Nice, okay.
Absolutely. If we remember that they're neutral, they don't have an opinion. They don't have an opinion about who you are, what you do. They're neutral. It's us that influences, that has the feeling, if you like, that interprets what they're doing.
Energy just is. It's what we do with it in our mind.
Absolutely.
Our feelings and our actions. So it works the same with the crystals, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, because I'm all about the energy of the mind. So it's just seeing it from a different aspect. Fascinating.
And it's all the same science as well. It's the same. We talk about, the physics of it, what's actually going on. Of course, when we talk about neuroscience, we're talking about biology, but there's so many crossovers. But in many ways, for most people, the science, of course, is not even relevant. It doesn't matter. In the same way as, why did you choose that particular plant? Why did you choose that bunch of flowers? It doesn't matter. You just like them, So it really doesn't matter quite often. Just bring it into your environment, wear it if it feels nice to wear it. If that's the right thing for you. You don't need to judge it. You don't need to have a reason necessarily. But like I said, if you want to accelerate healing, growth, anything at all, we can introduce those things and work with them. So now how I work with them, like I said, when I was just showing you these crystals, I had an instinct I wanted to put aventurine on there. That's obviously for somebody listening, watching this.
All right.
And the topaz, I think, would suit you tremendously well. And again, there may be somebody else watching who that's right for, because that, again, it's a bit of a curveball. It's a bit an unusual one for me to select. Hugely great for manifesting though, so it's wonderful. So when I am working with a client, for example, in coaching or in hypnotherapy, if they're spiritually aware, if they're interested in these things, it tends to come out in conversation. They might notice 1 or 2 things here. But sometimes I will get through a particular name of a crystal, or I'll see an image of something, an image will come into mind of a particular crystal, and I will interpret, what does that tell me about perhaps what that person is experiencing. So for example, recently I had somebody who had tourmaline came up a couple of times for them. No, not black tourmaline. The first time it was a red tourmaline, and the next time it was a blue. and these are very rare, highly unusual. So it just comes through to me as like a message. So I took so I used the blue tourmaline as an example, and it's a very specific color, it's like an aqua blue. So we're talking between throat and throat and heart chakra. I'm combining those two, and I'm thinking about, well, what's the properties of tourmaline? What's that showing me? What can I share with this client about what they're experiencing and how we can help them to move forward with that? And so what we were talking about doing is using creative expression, using a love for self and compassion, but also the alignment of tourmaline, and also the fact that it is a very spiritual stone. This doesn't come through for just anybody. This is quite an unusual pairing. So I was able to communicate that, and this in turn helps to facilitate that person's healing process. So I can bring in particular language that I'm using in the hypnosis, for example, or imagery that also complements using that message of the crystal energy too. So you don't necessarily need to have the crystal there with you to have the intentional, to have the message. So even if you're looking through a book, or you've seen something as you're scrolling online and you decide, oh, wouldn't that be lovely? Look it up, find out what the message is. What is it trying to tell you? And I will expect you, Sarah, to go and look up golden topaz when we finish. Definitely. And absorb that message. Take the message on, and it's a wonderful thing to just allow that message to come through. It's never going to be negative. It's always going to be a good thing. So
that's interesting that you don't actually have to have it.
You don't. It helps obviously enormously. It does help, but we've already talked about intention, about your mindset and things like that as well. I draw on crystal energy. I have them all around me. I change my energy when I'm working with different clients. So it's something that I've worked with for a really long time. So it's quite a different kind of state of being. But you have got a clear quartz crystal. So if you've got a clear quartz crystal, you can actually program that clear quartz crystal. And when I say program it, if I was to decide that I'd really like the energy of golden topaz, I could think about golden topaz and hold that crystal in my hand. And I would say, I really want to manifest that joy and bring in that light and illumination that golden topaz has. And your quartz is going to say, oh yes, I like the sound of that. And it will start vibrating at a slightly different frequency. Now, the thing with quartz as well is it produces piezoelectricity. So when you put it under pressure, it does actually change its energy. When you hold it in your hand, it's going to change its energy. Same with any crystal, it will change as you hold it. So as you put your intention into that as well, you're shifting its energy. And what it emanates out, then you will receive amplified. We know this can happen with programming because people can hold a crystal that's belonged to somebody they've never known, or a piece of jewelry, and they can tell you about that person. I'm no doubt that you've heard of that happening. It's called a psychokinesia, I think, or something along those. So it's a psychic experience of picking up energy. It's really easy to do once you start to get to know your crystals a little bit more. So people, so we know that energy can be moved through crystals in that way.
Wow.
And this is why cleansing them is really important as well. So if somebody else has been using your crystals, it's nice to cleanse them. They're not necessarily going to hold on to something negative, but they will have stuff, they will have different energy to them. So cleansing them just helps to release that energy.
Right. It's fascinating. I should look at my crystal collection here in a completely different light now. I do I think I underestimated them.
It's easy to do because they're just pretty rocks, aren't they, really?
I know they've got energy, and I do believe they've got different qualities, but I never really looked into it that deeply. But funny enough, picking that one up is making my hands tingle.
Which one have you just picked up that's made your hands tingle?
Mm.
Oh,
yeah, when you were talking about it does. It makes my hands tingle.
Yeah, that's quite high energy. I'd love to see the faces on that, because the faces have different connotations as well. The way the face, way it's formed, has a different connotation. And just as I'm sitting here, I'm looking around me. Actually, I've got a lot more around me than I even really noticed. I'm now holding a malachite. This is a lovely shape, and I just sort of like, it's a nice shape to rub my thumb on.
Well, that's
And
a
I've
quick
got,
question. Does it make any difference the shape that you have them in? So
yeah, how often are you going to hold that? How often will you hold that pyramid and comfort yourself with that?
no,
It's not very nice to hold, is it?
it's more sort
Yes, it's
of like sturdy because the shape it is.
yeah,
Yes. So
yeah.
does it
So
make
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, yeah, it really does. And so it makes a difference as to whether you're going to hold them or carry them, of course, or wear them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is your pyramid. Now, there's so much written about the pyramids and why they're that shape. We've got, you've got a four-sided pyramid there. Am I right? Is that a four-sided one? So you've got the square base. Yeah. So it's a really big, nice, solid base. What sense does that give you? It gives you grounding. It gives you a real kind of sense of anchoring, right? So you've got four nice big faces, and the faces are really good at emitting energy, but they're also good at taking in energy from the sun, from light as well. So it's putting out a lot. It's got a lot of surface area there, but it's also got this nice point. And actually, it's believed that the pyramids of Giza were built in such a way that the points are pointing at, this is somewhere on Mars. But it's a very directional energy. So you're taking all the energy from the base. If you imagine what happens if we had energy in the base coming from the Earth, and we push that up and it comes into a fine point, and by the time it gets to the top, it can be really tight, like a laser beam.
Yeah.
So they can be used for directional energy, but most of all, that one, because it's black, and because it's got that, it's a snowflake obsidian, it's got a lovely grounding to it, and it's quite a soft grounding. It's almost like when you snuggle up on the sofa and you pull your blanket over you and you go, oh, that's better. That's what snowflake obsidian feels like, that kind of comforting, safe, cozy, the lovely feeling. So it's got a lot of protection in that pyramid as well. Sphere energy is emitting evenly all the way around it. So yeah, you can see whatever shape that you've got, it comes down again to the atomic structure. So if it's a natural form, that will affect the energy it's putting out. If it's been polished, some people say, oh, you must always buy natural crystals. Don't buy ones that have been cut. Some people will say they've all been cut. They've all come from the earth. They've all been taken out. They all, they're all going to just work in different ways. But some people are very purist about it. That's cool too. Just go with whatever feels and looks right to you. And I have got some really jaggedy little things around me here. Some of them, like, you can see clear quartzes that are like needles, and some people are kind of slightly repelled by that because it's that kind of sharp, jaggedy energy. So it does have a different feel to it, but we must always just go for what we're drawn to. It's going to have a different, and if you're buying one for somebody else, just be present with that person. Think about that person, what their energy is like. As soon as we start intellectualizing it, can get confusing. But if somebody's going through a difficult time, if somebody's going through a breakup, for example, you might want to get them a rose quartz because it's calming and comforting and soothing. It's also a beautiful gift. What a lovely thing to give somebody, and give them something a little brighter as well. Hope and optimism, and So giving a gift can be intentional, but if you want to just buy something just because you're not really sure what they might need or want, go with what catches your eye when you think about them. Let them work out what it's for, because we don't always know what's going on in the undercurrents.
No, very true.
So it's nice to think about buying them for other people. It's a wonderful thing to do. And when you're wearing them in earrings, you're balancing both sides here, so it helps balance both sides of the brain, so it's really good for balance. I often wear them quite high here because I talk a lot in my work. So, and also I think I might have mentioned to you before, Sarah, is that when I'm doing hypnosis with somebody, for example, the resonance of vibration of the voice is so important to me. And so I want to really make sure that I'm getting that as clear as positive, get the right vibration for that. So I choose a different crystal every day that I'm going to wear. And sometimes I wear the same one for weeks at a time and then shift it just when I start noticing it. I look in the mirror and go, oh, it doesn't look right, or it doesn't go right with this or that, then I'll change it. It's not because it doesn't go, because I don't really care whether it goes with my outfit or not. It's just, it catches your eye when something needs to change, or it needs to cleanse or something, you know. So yeah, just go with it. And I don't very often wear a clear quartz. I've been wearing this one for a few days, so time for a bit more clarity. It's also because it's pointing down, it's nice and gently grounding, just a little sign to say, keep your feet on the ground, girl, you know. Stay connected. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do you mind if I just have a look and see if anybody's got...
I'd love some questions if anyone's got any.
I know there's Judith is saying a few weeks ago, oops, come back. A few weeks ago I was drawn to my rose crystal and I now have it by my bed. Oh.
And yeah, rose quartz, that lovely calming, soothing, like I said, it's similar to chamomile oil in its energy, in that it's it is wonderfully comforting. It's great to have it next to your bed. For people that have insomnia, it's just brilliant, and helps you to have nice, soft, soothing dreams as well. It's worth cleansing it quite often. I think people can be drawn to having rose quartz next to the bed if there's been lots of things going on, or lots of thinking, perhaps too much thinking going on. So it's nice to cleanse it quite regularly.
Right, okay, thank you.
We release a lot during our sleep. We do a lot of releasing, a lot of processing. So it's nice to cleanse it. I'd also recommend, who was it, sorry, that asked that? So I'd recommend also, I'm seeing like an amethyst at the end of your feet end of your bed, but you know, away from you, so near the wall or something. Just wants to stimulate some energies to shift something there a little bit. That would be a really nice thing to add in.
Because there's always, so there's a bit of a delay, so I don't know if somebody's replying or not.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that's come up.
Well, I have talked an awful lot.
No, it's been absolutely fascinating. I've learned so much tonight, and it's given me a lot of thought-provoking moments. I think I'm really going to have to go through I really want to go through my crystals now, and I think get to know them better. I've just had this, you know, ones recommended or ones that I've just, this one was actually a message from an angel.
Ah, perfect.
I was doing angel energy work with my spiritual mentor. She said, been told that you should get I can never pronounce it.
Lapis. It's lapis lazuli.
That's the one. So I went to the shop and they had this, and it was just perfect.
It is gorgeous. Yes. And so we use you know, crystals. There are crystals associated, every crystal is associated with an angel, with a vibration number, so we can use them alongside numerology as well, with spirit animals, with birthstones, with star signs. They're all connected with everything. So it's this whole sense of this universal energy, this interconnectedness with the earth, with the ley lines, the energy lines. You will see certain crystals cropping up on particular energy lines. So it's all interconnected, and it's a real joy to be able to communicate these things and to see these kind of crossing through different fields of awareness and different types of people. And of course, a lot of people associate it with Wicca and with paganism and you know, people doing spells and magic and things like that. But for the most part, people are using them, you know, like helping them to sleep, or just because they enjoy having them in the environment. And you know, we can use them in layouts and actually using them for crystal healing. And I've done some very intensive training with that. Oh my goodness, what a roller coaster that is. But using them for layouts is really great, as long as you're setting an intention with it. What can happen though is you do a crystal, and this is why I'm not doing crystal healing as a practitioner as such, is because I could do a layout or do a healing with somebody and it's incredibly effective. But as you know, Sarah, our bodies and our brains are quite reluctant to let go of certain patterns, particularly if they're well established. So that person can go away and easily slip back to old habits of thinking, patterns of energy, So we you know, we'd have to repeat that. Another, you know, positive about it is, of course, that person gets that incredible feeling of release. And sometimes if we're clearing some really, excuse me, some stuck energy, some debris in there, it can go and it will stay away. So it can be incredibly successful. But for longer term issues, we will tend to slip back into familiar pathways unless we're maintaining and doing ongoing work otherwise. But of course, the wonderful thing is you do have those moments of release, those moments of insight, which propel you into more positive states. So, you know, crystal healing as an actual practice is a wonderful thing, but it's not something that I found to be as effective as perhaps using it in combination with, you know, what I do, which is a combination of energy therapy and hypnosis. But also, I think most practitioners are using other things with them as well, or they'll send somebody away to work on something themselves. They might make a tincture. Of course, we can put the energy into water and drink that. So there's lots of different ways that you can incorporate them into your world and use them yourself. But for me, layouts are not necessarily the answer. We can lie in grids of them and things like that. It's very, very powerful. But it's not necessarily sustainable in my experience. I'm happy to be proven wrong with that, but it's not what I've chosen to do with them for long-term success. I feel that either we incorporate them into our lives and just have them around us is very much about intention as well. That's the most powerful part of it. Let them in, listen to the messages.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Just
You're very welcome.
I will say it's been fascinating. Thank you. Super. So, Nick, thank you.
Well, if anybody
this evening,
if anybody does have any questions for me, well, there you've got my contact details. I'm on all the socials as Nik Bisbey on the socials, so I can be found there. I'm always happy to answer questions. As you can tell, I'm so excited by crystals. I will talk about them all day long. But absolutely, if anybody has any particular, if anyone has any particular issues, or I'm really happy to intuit a particular crystal for somebody, or any particular issues that somebody is needing to work through or finding they're a little bit stuck on. That's my area, and that's what I really love, helping people through that. So really happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.